Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unreal 4 tutorial. In today's video we're going to be making a pause menu. So I have already done one like this, however this one is going to be a bit more advanced, it's going to look a bit better, have some more options within it, and also work a little bit more efficiently and better as well. So the reason I'm doing this is because recently I've had a few people ask questions about the pause menu, and there was nothing wrong with it, but I just realised that I can make it a lot better, and I have done with them, so I may as well make a video about it as well. So let me show you what we're going to be making today. So you can see we can walk around like normal. This is our game. We press our button to pause the game. You see the game is paused in the background because we were jumping, we're no longer falling. We have a blur, it says pause at the top, you can write whatever you want, for example, the name of your game. If we press resume, we're going to resume. We pause it again. If we press options, it's going to take us to an options menu, which I've set up in a previous video, which you can watch as well. However, what it's going to do is we're going to press back and go to the pause menu, because what other people were experiencing was that would take them back to the main menu. So we've just edited it a little bit, so it takes you either to the main menu if you're from the main menu, or if you came from the pause menu, it'll take you back to the pause menu. And if we press quit, we can now either quit to main menu, I start again, pause, or we can quit to the desktop, like so, which will just close the game. And if we keep pressing quit, it will open and close this, like so. So this is what we're going to be making today, so let me delete this code and I'll show you how I've done it. So our first step is we want to actually create this widget for our pause menu. So to do that, we're going to go in our folder that we want. So I've just made a folder called pause menu. We're going to right click, go to user interface. We're going to add a widget blueprint. I'm just going to name this one pause menu widget, like so, and open that up straight away. In here, we're going to spend a bit of time making it look quite good and then add the coding in afterwards. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add in a background blur. So you don't need this, you can add an image if you want, but I'm going to add in a background blur, position X is 0, Y is 0, size X to 1920 and size Y to 1080, so it takes up the whole screen, and I'll also anchor it to the whole screen as well, so it doesn't move about. I'm going to set the blur strength to be 5. You can set this to whatever you like, but I found 5 to be quite a good value. And then we don't need to do anything else, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press the padlock there on background blur in the canvas panel, in the hierarchy, so I can't move it like this. So if I'm dragging, I can't move it, which is helpful later on, because otherwise you might accidentally start moving it when we want to edit something else. Next, I'm going to add a title. So I can get some text, drag it onto canvas panel in the hierarchy there. This I'm just going to rename to title. It's always good practice to name everything so that you always know exactly what it is without having to go double check it. For example, when we're in the graph coding it. I'm going to take size to content there. I'm just going to add in the text paused. Obviously you can put the name of your game, anything like that. I'll put it as paused. I'll set the font size to be 100 and I'll make it bold italic like so, just to make it look a bit better. And I'm going to move this into the middle of the screen, and I'll anchor it to the top middle as well, and use this anchor as a guide for finding it the exact middle there. So I think that's a good place for me to write paused with the name of my game. Then what I want to do is I want to search in the palette for a vertical box. I'm going to drag that onto the canvas panel again there. That one I'll leave the name as vertical box, as we're only going to have one, and this is to keep all the buttons together, making it a lot easier to keep everything together, keep it all lined up, and good stuff like that. So I'm just going to move this into the middle of my screen where I want it, and I'm going to use the sizes which I found earlier for it, and the positions as well. So for me, the middle of my screen with these buttons was minus 244 on the X. I should anchor it first. So let me anchor it to the middle of the screen, and then do minus 244 and minus 172 on the Y. Now it's up there. I'm going to size it up to be 490 on the X and 345 on the Y. So I get this nice square here in the middle of my screen. Now you don't need to do that if you don't want. You can set it up to be however you want, whatever size, whatever position. However, this is where I want it to be. So you can just move it, size it, anchor it, all that good stuff. And we don't need to do anything else with the vertical box. Now we're going to add our buttons into it. So we can drag a button from the palette on top of the vertical box and hierarchy there. And you can see it's added in. You can select it, and then we have a button in there. So let's add all three. So I want a resume button, which is there. I'll add another one for my options. Add another one for quit. You can add as many buttons as you want, but I only want 3. So what I'm going to do is the top button, I'm going to rename to resume button there. Change the padding to 5, just so there's a bit of space between them so it looks quite nice. And change the size to fill. And you see that's going to fill the whole vertical box we have. Once we add the other 3, it will evenly spread them out. So we'll do that in a second. You can also change the style of that. So you can put images for the buttons. You can change it for normal for when you're hovering over it and when you press it. I'm not going to worry too much with that. The hovered, I might just make it a little bit more obvious, so make it a bit more grey, and the pressed, I'll make a bit more black. Again, it's not necessary, I'm just showing you that you can do it. And I'm probably only going to do it for that one button as well. However, no, actually we'll delete the other two buttons and we'll set everything up with this resume button and then duplicate it. So I want the normal to be white, hover to be a bit more grey, and press to be black, and the padding to be 5, and we want it to fill. And obviously you can, again, customize this to whatever you like. Here you can also see you can have sounds. So when we press it, let's have a camera shutter sound effect. When we hover it, let's have a compile failed sound effect. Obviously you won't want to use those. These are just, again, examples that I'm showing you to show that this is how we would do it, this is how it would work. So once you customize that and you're happy with how it is, what we're going to do is then we're going to drag and drop a text onto that button in the vertical box here. This text I'm going to rename to resume text. These ones don't matter too much if you don't name them, however I'm just going to do it anyway. And in the text I'm going to change this to just say resume. And I'll up the size to 30 and change the color to be black, like so. Now see, I have the color to be black, and when I press the button it'll be black as well, so that will disappear. So you can change the colors if you want, but again, I'm just going for a simple one just to show you how it works. And I'll leave everything else the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the button in the vertical box here, Control C on that, select the vertical box and hit Control V. And you see we have another button directly underneath it with all the exact same variables inside of it. What I'm going to do is just rename this to be Options button, and then change the text as well to also be Options, because that's what this button is for me. And then we'll do that one final time, and go to the vertical box, Control V, and then we have our third button in there like so, which for me, I want to be quit. So I'm going to change those accordingly. And now we have our resume, options, and quit buttons there, perfectly and evenly spaced out. So again, we have a vertical box, you can just move this about like so, and it'll keep all the buttons together like that. Now to add in the other quit buttons, so you saw I had a quit to main menu, and quit to desktop. To do the final two, we're going to add a horizontal box. So we added the vertical box, now we want a horizontal box, again just adding that onto the canvas panel there. And I will rename this one to be quit box, like so. In here, I want to do the same thing. I want to add some buttons. So I will do the same variables that I did last time. So I'll just duplicate those buttons again. So I have that button already in my clipboard. So I'll Control V on the quit box, Control V again. So now we have those two buttons in there. However, you can see that hasn't worked perfectly because I haven't sized this up yet. So we're going to do that now. And also actually, I might change the padding on these to be 10 instead of 5. I think that might just look a bit better. Again, not necessary to do. I just think that will look a little bit nicer, like so. So I'll do the same on these ones, change them to 10. So now let's fix how the horizontal box looks, by which I mean let's just scale it up. So for this, I'm going to anchor it again to be the middle. Position Y, I'm going to put as -488. Position X, that is, sorry, position Y now is 192. Size X, I'm going to have as 980, and I've got 980 because that's double the size of this vertical box. So whatever the size X is for your vertical box, I'd recommend doubling that for the size X of your horizontal box. And size Y, I'm just going to have 105, because that is then the same as this button here. And so now I have that working like so. So when I press quit, we're going to get these buttons here. Let's obviously rename them to be desktop, I want here. I'll change the text to also be to desktop or quit to desktop. And this one will be main menu. And so you can see we very easily just made one button and used that to create all of the buttons that we need here and set them up to be perfect. Now I was obviously using values which I found earlier. The way I found them was just by simply moving around, scaling up, and all that good stuff. So you can do that very easily yourself as well. Use the values which I found today. And if we reselect our quit box here, or our horizontal box, what we want to make sure we do is change its visibility to hidden. So by default, we don't see this, because obviously we only want to see it when we press quit. We want to toggle on and off its visibility. So by default, we'll have it hidden, and we also want to make sure we tick is variable up in the top as well, so we can toggle on and off its visibility through the blueprints in the code in a second. So I'd say that's the visuals of it set up. So I've got a very basic pause menu visual set up here. So I've got the title, resume, options, and quit buttons, and then also my to desktop and to main menu quit as well as this background blur here. Again, you can customize this to make it look however you like, but I'm just showing you the basic visual side, and I'm going to go into the coding side as well. And the coding and functionality is going to be more in depth than this. So to do that, we're going to go to the graph over here and delete these three events that we have. Let's just compile. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the resume button first. As you can see, I haven't actually renamed some of these, so this is why it's good to name them, because otherwise this would be button 1, button 2, button 3, and you wouldn't know what's what. So that's a good example there of why we name everything. So let's go back to the designer and change the name of those. So we have resume button there. That should be to main menu. So that's Y to main menu button. And then where's the other resume? Well, that might have been it. So we go back to the graph. Yeah, that was it. So now we've got resume to main menu, quit, options, desktop, all the ones that we need. So let's do the resume first. So let's select the resume button and press the plus next to the on-clicked event. So now we have on-clicked resume button here. Out of this, we're going to get remove from parent. So it's going to take this pause widget off of our screen. Then we're going to set game paused. And we're going to leave it unticked so the game is no longer paused. And we're going to right click and get the player controller. As obviously when the game is paused, our controller and our mouse is going to act differently. So we want to set it back to how it should act in the game. So we're going to come out the return value and set input mode game only, like so, plugging that in there. Come out of the get player controller again and set show mouse cursor, leaving it as false. And we're going to set some of this other stuff up in the character blueprint in a minute when we actually put the widget on screen, so when we pause the game. So that might make more sense then. However, what we need to do is set it so we only use the game input and we no longer have the mouse cursor on screen as we will do in the pause menu. And that is how we go back to the game from the pause menu. That's how we resume. So let's select all that, hit C to comment it, and name it resume button or resume game, anything like that. I'll move that up there. Then let's do the quit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the quit button, get an on-clicked event, and out of this, what I'm going to do is get a flip-flop, and I'm going to get a reference to our quit box there. So that's the horizontal box that we have for quit. Out of this, we're going to set visibility, plugging that into A, and then we will also duplicate it. So get another set visibility, plugging the target back into the quit box, and this one into B. Off of A, we want it to be visible. Off of B, we want it to be hidden. So now when we press the quit button, it's going to toggle on and off the visibility of this quit box here. So that's what a flip-flop does. It toggles between the values of A and B. So we can select this, hit C to comment it, and call this open/close quit box, like so. So now we can set up the actual quitting functionality. So underneath this, I'll do the to main menu first. So I'll select the main menu button, press on clicked event, and out of this, I'm going to simply open level. Now the reason I'm opening a level is because how I set up my main menus is I have them in a different level. And that's because it's way more efficient and it's just a lot easier to do as well. So in the level name, you want to make sure you spell the level exactly the same way. So I named mine main menu level, like that. And that will open the main menu. If you don't have it in a different level, I'd recommend you would, but if you don't and you don't want to, then what you can do is just get a remove from parent and then create widget for your main menu and add that to viewport. So you get remove from parent, create widget with your main menu in there, and then add to viewport, and that will take you to your main menu instead. However, again, I'd recommend the open level. It works a lot better. However, I've shown you both ways now. And we'll comment that again, just return to main menu, and then quitting the game is just as simple. So we'll get the desktop button, so quit to desktop, on clicked. This one again is just one simple node. We come out and we get quit game. Very simple like that. That's all we need to do. Just quit, leave everything as default. Again, I'm going to comment this, just quit to desktop or exit game, anything like that. So the quitting is actually very simple to do. Now let's do the options menu, which is also quite simple. What we're going to do is we're going to get the options button here, press the on clicked event once again. Out of this, we're going to get an is valid node with the question mark next to it like that. We'll do the input object in a second. Is not valid, we're going to create widget with the class as our options menu widget there. Now obviously if you don't have one set up yet, you don't need to do this part yet, but it's always good to have one set up as well, so that way the player can change the options both in-game and in the main menu. It's just a bit of ease of life for the player. At the return value, we're going to right click, promote to variable, and name this options menu reference, like so. And now we're going to get that reference and plug that into the input object of the is valid there. So when we press the options button, if we don't have the widget already created, we're going to create it. And then we'll add to viewport like so. And that add to viewport will also go into the is valid there. So if we don't have it created, we'll make it, add it to the viewport. And if we do have it made, then we'll just go straight to adding it to viewport. So that will work great. And the reason we're doing it with is valid is just because it's more efficient than always creating the options menu each time. We're only going to make it when we need to. So I would compile and save, and that is the pause menu set up. So again, I'll comment this and open options menu. So this is it set up again. So what we've got is we've got the visual side here. This is what it's going to look like in game, and this is how it's going to run. So we can resume, open, close the quit box, return to the main menu or the desktop, and open our options menu. So like I say, we can compile, save, and we can close that since we are finished with it. What we want to do next is we want to set up actually pausing the game and opening this menu. So I'm going to be doing that in the character blueprint. So I'm going to go to content, third person BP, blueprints, third person character. If you use, it could be third, first, whatever you've named it. In here, we're going to scroll down and find some empty space, and we're going to get an action mapping. So for that, I'm going to go to edit, project settings. And once this loads, we're going to go down to input on the left down here. I'm going to add an action mapping. So I'm going to hit the plus action mapping there, and I'm going to name this one pause game. Now you can set these keys to be whatever you like. So I'm going to get both the escape key and the P key, because obviously you can't press escape unless you're in a standalone game or if you've packaged the game. So I'm going to set it to escape and P. And the benefit of action mappings is, as you can see, we can have multiple keys. We can set up keys for different consoles, so an Xbox, a PlayStation, PC, mobile, anything like that. And we can also set up key bindings. Once you've done that, we're going to close that, right click, and now we should be able to call that action event. So I named mine pause game. So we have action events, pause game there. Out of the rest of this, I'm going to again get that is valid node with the question mark next to it. And we're going to do the same thing. Is not valid is going to create a widget with the class as our pause menu widget there. The return value of this, we're going to right click, promote to variable, and name this one pause menu reference, like so. Again, plugging this one into the input object of the is valid. So we're only going to create this widget if we need to. Then out of is valid, we're going to get a branch. So you can hold up B, left click to get a branch, plugging that also into the set pause menu widget there. So again, we're only making it when we need to. However, we're going to use it both times. The condition of this branch, what we can do is we can right click and get is game paused. Plugging that into the condition there. So dependent on if the game is paused, we're going to either add or remove the pause menu. So if the game is paused and we press escape or your pause menu, it's going to go back to the game. If we're not paused and you press it, then it'll open it up. So you can either press resume in the pause menu or your escape button again. So off of true, if it is paused, we want to take it off screen. So we're going to get a reference to our pause menu reference there. So get that and remove from parent, plugging that into the true there. Then we're going to come out of this and set game paused, and we're going to set this to false. So we're unpausing the game. And then we're going to right click, get player controller. So this is very similar to how we did the resuming in the widget as well. In fact, it's pretty much the same. We're going to come out the return value and we're going to set show mouse cursor. I'm going to set it to false. So again, we don't have the mouse cursor in game. And then out of the player controller, we're going to set input mode game only. So again, the exact same way we did it in the widget. Now let's set up pause in the game. So if the game's paused and we press that, we're going to unpause it. Now we want to pause it. So we're going to come out of this pause menu reference we have there, and this time add to viewport. So we're adding the menu to our screen, plugging that into false there. And then we're going to come out of this and set game paused once again, this time ticking it so the game is paused. And then we're going to come out the get player controller and set show mouse cursor once again, this time again ticking it to be true, so we do have our mouse cursor when we're in the pause menu, so we can use all the buttons. And now to get player controller again, we're going to set input mode, this time setting it to game and UI. And so we're doing that so that we can then use the buttons in the widget, and we can still also use this escape key that we have here for our pause game, which reminds me we need to select this and tick execute when paused, so we can still use this when the game is paused to unpause it. Now if we go back over to our set input mode game and UI, what we're going to do is this in widget to focus, we're going to put into our pause menu reference there, so it then focuses on our pause menu, which means we don't have to click into it for it to activate and to focus on it, it will just focus automatically. And we're going to change in mouse lock mode to lock in full screen. You can set this to whatever you like, you can have it as do not lock, whichever one is just what you prefer. But I want it to be lock in full screen. And we're going to untick hide cursor during capture because we want the cursor to be shown. And so on that, we'll pause the game. So what we can do is we can select all this, hit C to comment it, and have pause/unpause game like so, which again, I'll run you through it. When we press our pause button, it's going to either create and use or just use our pause menu. And when it uses it, it's either going to take it off the screen and unpause the game, or put it on the screen and pause game, depending on if we are paused or not already. So I know that was a quick summary, but I already went through it as I was making it. So we can compile and save, and that is basically all set up. However, I want to add in the options menu as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this and open up my options menu. So now again, if you don't have this made, I do have a video on creating one, so you can go watch that, but I'm going to set this part up now as well. So for that, I'm going to go to content, my main menu. I'm just going to open up my options menu widget here. Now if I go to the event graph, you can see this is how we go back. So ordinarily, if we press back, it's just going to go to the main menu, which obviously we don't want that to happen all the time. We only want that to happen if we're in the main menu. So a quick way of doing this is to move the create menu widget out and the add to viewport, just move them out like so. And before that, I'm going to hold down B, left click to get a branch. The false will go into the create widgets, and I'll move that down. And true, we don't want to do anything. The condition of this is just going to again be is game paused. So if we press back while the game is paused, that means we want to go back to our pause menu. So we don't need to do anything because we've removed this from the parent already. If the game isn't paused, then that means we're in the main menu. So we'll go back to the main menu like so. So now if we compile, save, we can close this, and this should be working perfectly for us. So let's hit play to test it. And you can see we're walking around our game. If I hit P, it's going to pause. We're no longer falling. The game's paused. We've got the background blur there. We have our title and our different buttons. And you can see if I hover over resume, we've got the audio effect there, which is compile failed. So obviously you want to change it. And the button grays out a little bit as well. Same with options and quit. So I might remove that audio in a second as well. However, I'll show you this working. So we can press resume. The game's gone in. And again, we got that audio for when we clicked it. I pause it. Quit, it shows these. We can quit to desktop, which will do that. Or we can go in, quit to main menu, which will take us to the main menu. Now here, if I go to options and back, it will keep us in the main menu. If I press start, pause, options, back, it takes us to the main menu. If I press P again in here to pause, it's going to unpause it. So this works perfectly. So I think that'll be it for this video. We've done everything we want to do. We've set up a pause menu which works perfectly, so we can pause and unpause with a button. We can press resume to unpause again, or we can go to our options, back into our pause menu, quit to open up multiple options here for desktop and main menu, which also work perfectly. And we've also managed to add in a really annoying sound effect alongside it as well. And obviously the main menu takes you there as well. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.